So it has been one of those days. There's no Buck's Garage. Look familiar? That's the alternator pulley off of the new alternator that I just wrestled on to the Maxima. $245. And they couldn't tighten the nut. Yeah, I checked it. It spun. But it started making a racket after I completed the assembly. And fortunately, I was able to find the nut right where I had parked the car. Then, the aftercooler from the compressor decided to spit one of the fittings out of it, rendering it no good. To the rescue, Amazon. Next day delivery. So I got to put the aftercooler on because that big 80-gallon compressor, as you can see right here, I have this upper line braced, but I'm going to point out something to you in a second. The lower line wasn't braced, went like so, and I felt, there it is, sorry, I felt that was more solidly supported because of the configuration. Now I think I'm going to put some type of support underneath this as well in the modification. But this is interesting because that's melted plastic from this shelf sits adjacent to the compressor, and as you can see, yeah, this thing actually melted through the bucket because this compressor is literally walked, if you will, during operation. As you can see, I only have it on the wooden crate that it was packaged with when I purchased it, but it's just sitting in place on the floor. It's not fixed or anchored, so that's a mental note to myself. But all of this the day after I'm allowed to go back to full duty after the surgery. So what do? Get the parts, fix it up, keep it moving. Until the next one. And the stuff just keeps piling on. About 10 days ago, 11 days ago now today, I purchased the alternator, remanufactured alternator from O'Reilly in anticipation of us taking a trip this weekend, which is subsequently being canceled. I went ahead and purchased this instead of waiting for crap, never mind. I purchased this alternator from O'Reilly, and last night took it back. See, there it is right there. $224, $246.93. A lifetime warranty. Why? Because I told you guys, sometimes my rotating assemblies, I like to have warranties. That way, if I'm in some location and something happens, I can do a swap out on it, right? Okay. In the unlikely event, that is. Back to the story. Because the fecal matter just keeps getting deeper and deeper. Yeah, I'm trying to keep this clean. You know, there's probably no real reason to. When I took this alternator back to the store last night to inquire, well, I inquired if they had one. Because you remember the problems I had trying to find one 10 days ago. Nobody had them in town. Called up the fellas at O'Reilly. They said they had the alternator. I asked him, would you physically go see? Took him a while. He physically went and saw, and it was on the shelf, and he actually pulled it off. He said he had it. So I went, after going through the process of taking out everything. You've done these before. You know what I'm talking about. Including, I know some people have actually done this without taking the air conditioner off. There it is, sitting on top of the crate right there. But I had to take the air conditioner off because I got big hands to get to the friggin' alternator bolt that mounts through right here. Get to O'Reilly's. The guy looks at it. He looks at the receipt. There it is, O'Reilly, right? Looks at the receipt. Looks at the alternator, which is grimy from my gloved hands working last night. And he says, oh, it's looking a little rough for 10 days. I'm like, yeah, dude. I had my grimy hands on it, okay? So it's like, yeah. Then he says, oh, we'll have to test it. And I said, that's impossible. And I showed him why. Remember I said that the alternator bolt came off, right? And I showed him the alternator. Now, look at this pulley. Look at this pulley very closely, right? The coating is still on that pulley. Take note of that, right? Look down there at the crank pulley. Let me get it in there. There it is, blurry. But what I want you to see, there we go. I want you to see how the edges where the ribs ride in the belt are cleaned off. They're silver. This pulley still has the powder coating on it. Now, upon installation, this thing sounded normal. Then it started rattling, clacking, and making noise. I listened to it with the stethoscope, and I could clearly hear that something was going on with it, even though this unit did show a charge. Parked it outside. Next day, came out, started the car up again, trying to diagnose the noise, and I heard the belt come off. Shut it down immediately and everything, and looked and could not find this bolt. Found the bolt on the ground. Nut, rather, on the ground. Yeah, don't get on my case. I'm a little hyped up right now. Notice that the bolt, the nut, okay, the nut. Notice that the nut is loose on this shaft right here. In fact, it will not thread. However, in the store, when I walked in there and Redbeard the pirate had the alternator sitting on the desk, he didn't even open it up. I opened it up. It was still packaged in the protective paper wrapping that you always see. It still had that cardboard multicolored side, and it said, hey, if you have any problems, call 1-800 you effed up. Instead of taking it back to the store, I gave this a spin, and it turned. You could feel the resistance of the rotor turning inside. No problem, right? Mind you, I'm trying to get this done before my surgery because I knew I was going to be down for 7 days and couldn't even lift this thing. The kicker came, and here's a cautionary tale for you guys too, because I believe people are getting desperate. The kicker came when he looked at the back of the alternator and they said, you see it right there. Nissan. Look at the picture I got posted right there. I'm going to post. Look at that picture. On the right side is the remanufactured alternator, which is a case that has no branding at all. According to them, this is an original Nissan part. Advance O'Reilly's AutoZone, none of these people make these parts. None of these people remanufacture these parts. If you got enough damn money, you can hire a company somewhere to make parts in your name and market them as well. That's what they all do. They just provide the warranty, the jacked up price, and everything else. Now, you can get these online for $80-something, but many of the reviews said they hardly ever last for 30 days. So I took mine that I already had a warranty on and supplied it as a core. Went in there last night. Now they're telling me I need to come talk to a manager because this is a Nissan branded part and they don't sell Nissan branded parts. They claim that this is an original part. So I've got to go talk to a manager. Now, cautionary note to all of you guys. One of the things that I've noted from my 6 years of working in the auto parts at AutoZone, Things like sensors and other small items that used to be sold under the standard brand, for instance, are packaged in boxes and are now sealed for your protection. You know, they're packaged like this. Yeah, this is a warranted item. And nowadays, they are packaged in plastic, sealed plastic. That way, ouch. That way, the individual parts counter person knows that that part is unmolested. During my time at AutoZone, I saw such things as people bringing back sealed bottles of liquids, brake fluid, antifreeze, and things of that nature. One of the things my manager told us to do, every time somebody brings a bottle in, squeeze it. Take the cap off and squeeze it. You won't believe what people will do in times of desperation. Now, as I stated, I believe now that I was a victim, if you will, an unwitting victim in my haste and everything else. Oh, here is the other thing that did not come apparent until it was on the car and installed. Just see if I can pick this up. That noise started approximately 1 minute after operation. So, it seems that somebody literally, to me, based on my experience at AutoZone, somebody literally took a Nissan branded alternator, actually cleaned it up, bought a new one, popped off the pulley that's always new, installed it on the Nissan branded alternator, put it back into the box to return it as, oh, I don't need that item anymore. And nobody bothered to look, take it out of the box and look. And it sat on the shelf until I showed up. So now I've got to go talk to the manager to see if they are going to honor a $245.93 purchase. Oh. Hell. We'll see. The good news, they warranted the alternator. I guess they believe my assessment more than anything else. Grateful for that. I literally thought and actually believed that the manager's discretion would have absolutely allowed them to not warranty the item that I showed you in the other portion, the earlier part of this video. But they did, as they said. They've seen strange things happen. But this brings a couple of things to my mind that I think we need to be aware of. Those of us who do this as a hobby, a vocation, avocation, hobby are the same thing. Don't judge me, okay? Be aware, folks. I don't care how much of a hurry you are in, or whatever the dilemma and circumstance is when it comes to getting your parts. Do some visual checks, and this is for folks that work at the parts counter as well as those of us who are buying those parts. Take those things out of the box and take a look at them. You'll notice that on the back of this one, there is no Nissan brand. You will not see the branding. Other things to take note of: look at the style of bolts on the back for the remanufactured case. Notice that there's going to be stamps that they put on at the factory that indicate that this item has been tested, approved by Inspector 7 or whomever. Just like I pointed out the pulley. As you can see, this pulley is powder coated, black iron, whatever the hell it is the manufacturer uses. And the grooves are not shiny. Check that as well. The other thing that should have been a red flag to me right away is this right here. You saw that the nut on the alternator that I picked up originally on the 10-day ago attempt to repair this car was rusted. This one is anodized and new, plus you can see where it was marked at the factory. These are the things that you need to look for when you are picking up your rotating assembly parts from the auto parts store. And the other thing that I will say on your starters and alternators, have them tested at the store before you walk out with them. And to keep yourself and the parts store people covered, you might even want to photograph it. I think that's something I'm going to be doing from now on. So the saga has a good ending outside of, anybody want to come do this for me? It's not one of those things that I like to do, but I have to do. And like anything else that you do multiple times, it gets easier every time you do it. So it should go fairly quickly, and thankfully I don't have to be anywhere, so I can take my time getting this car back together and back on the road, because it's, after all, for Deborah, and you know I love her. But the next time I'm not going to listen to her prodding to get her favorite car back on the road and end up spending another $250 on something I could have spent $0. Anyway, keep that in mind when you go in to get your parts from the auto parts store. Don't give the guys the hard time if you run into a situation like I just did. They just worked there, somebody else took it in, and well, let me fall back on something here before we end this. When I worked at AutoZone, we were absolutely capable of going back in the record to see when this part was last bought in the store, what person took it in, and everything else on a refund or an exchange. So it's possible for them to do it, and I would think that my saving grace in this case is I was not on that list of people that bring in multiple returns or bring in receipts from other stores, which is a tactic some people do, to a different location, trying to seek a refund for something they may or may not have bought, or they simply try to pass off as something that they got from that brand of auto parts store. They have ways that they can determine that. So me not being on that list, I think, worked in my favor, as well as their own common sense. And I got to give it to the folks at the counter, behind the counter, at O'Reilly Auto Parts over here in Madison, Tennessee, that particular store. And I appreciate them for having common sense. You do the same thing when it comes to picking up your parts, your rotating assemblies. Inspect them closely, photograph them if you have to, have them tested at the store before you leave. Make the process a whole lot easier. Willie for the No Bucks Garage. I'm going to dive back to jumping in here and getting it together. Talk to you later.